You must always believe that somewhere in your future, there's something positive. Thank you for tuning in to the Healthcare Raw podcast. My name is Dove Marcus. I'm a rabbi, a nurse, a husband, and a dad. And I am motivated to make healthcare better. Now, I live in a place where the weather gets kind of rough. So we've got seasons over here. And I was born in Los Angeles, and the weather over there can be pretty sweet. I went back for a year when I was a teenager, and I remember it was like 45 degrees in February, and then it was like March, and then I was like, wait a second, guys, when's winter happening? And then someone's like, that was the worst winter we've ever had. Where I've been living, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, I spent most of my life living here, in fact, you get some pretty rough weather. Not too much snow, although some winters can be pretty snowy, but we get like, you'll have like a stretch of a couple months of just cold, just freezing cold. Like you feel a cold coming through the walls, and people get pretty depressed because of it, and you kind of get into this thing of like, oh God, when is this going to end? Some people love the cold. I don't particularly love the cold. I've kind of learned you just kind of learn how to live with it, right? You know that the spring is going to arrive. You don't want to waste, you're not going to hibernate through the winter. You got to do what you got to do, right? I've run an experiment over the past couple years because I'm outside a lot during the winter. I've been going from house to house, apartment to apartment, home care nursing, right? In case you haven't listened to any of the earlier episodes. So what I've found is that, like, I'll be walking through a parking lot through, like, the snow or the cold or whatever it is, and it's like, end of January, beginning of February. It's been winter for a couple months. You still have at least, like, a month ahead of you, right? And I'll just come up to some stranger, like, we'll cross our paths, or I'll be in an elevator next to a stranger, and I'll say something like, golly gosh, this weather, huh? And then I'll be like, yeah, oh, it's terrible, right? And then I'll say, and this is where the experiment happens, I'll say, I don't know if we're ever going to have summer. And then the person, and this happens like 90% of the time, it's weird. The person says, yeah, I don't think we're having a summer. And I say, so you're trying to, you mean like to say that July we're going to have this kind of weather? And then I'll be like, yeah, I'm just losing like my faith, and I just think that, like, I just can't see this weather ever going away. And I'll say, well, now hold on a second. I want to make sure I understand you. And remember, I'm talking to a complete stranger. I guess I have that way with people. I say, I want to make sure that I understand this correctly. Are you trying to tell me that you think that it's going to snow in July? And you wouldn't believe how many people tell me, yeah, I mean, it's going to be snowy and disgusting in July. And these are grown-ups. So I say, well, has it ever? Has it ever snowed in July? And at that point, he'll like stop, and he'll like, wait a second. No, it hasn't snowed in July. Hey. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, like let's get the proper perspective going over here. Like, let's be realistic. Okay, let's be realistic. The weather sucks now, but it's not going to suck forever, right? We know that we've got seasons. Just bear it, and it'll be okay. So that's weather. Why am I talking about weather? And what does that have to do with healthcare? So, talking to my patients, I've never been through real illness. Now, I mean, I've had I had pneumonia about a month ago, but it was mild. I I had a cold and then I drank too much water, and I think it kind of like got into my lungs or something, and I had pneumonia for about 2 days, and I got on antibiotics, but I felt horrible. Oh gosh, I was on the couch just laying there. We had to travel that day, and I was just like not having it, right? So, but I've never been, thank God, I've never been sick. Like I've never been sick. I've never been ill. And so I have to use my imagination to try to get into my patients' heads and to really know what they're going through. But obviously in my line of work, I've been in contact with lots and lots of people with various illnesses and different conditions and different prognoses. Some of the people, like, well, you're young and you break your arm. Okay, so you'll be better, right? Some people with cancer and advanced cancers, it's kind of like it's a different story. But here's the thing, and this is where the weather comes in. I've found that in my conversations with my amazing patients, I'll often have a similar conversation. The conversation will be similar, the pattern will be similar to the weather conversation. So, I often tell my patients, why am I here? Like I'll ask them, why am I here? And, oh, you're here to clean the wound, right? You're here to review my medicine. Well, and then I say, well, that's part of the reason why I'm here. But why am I really here? Am I here for the wound or am I here for you? So that's kind of like a segue to get deeper, because a lot of people who go through illness often find themselves searching for a certain kind of meaning, right? All of a sudden or over time, your life has changed and you're facing your mortality. And so I find that a large part of my role as a nurse is to elevate people's spirits, to make them positive, to help them get through this, because it's more than just the physical cleaning of wounds and giving IV medications. That's important. You're not going to mess that up. If you mess that up and you're positive, or if you're terrible at the tasks and you're still like a great positive nurse, it doesn't do much. So when I'm trying to elevate people, I'll have this weather conversation, and it's kind of like you're going through this. You're going through this right now. It's real. It's real. And you know what? You're having a hard time seeing through the clouds. It's wintry outside. It's blistery, nasty winter, and this is worse than winter because in a lot of cases you can't really see an out. There's no guaranteed spring and summer. But still there's hope. There has to be hope. There must be hope. And so just like when I'm talking with the guy in the elevator and he's given up hope on the idea of spring and summer, which is ridiculous. Gosh, that can't happen with people who are fighting illness. You must always believe that somewhere in your future there's something positive. So you might be thinking, well, what about someone who is in hospice? What about someone who there is no hope? So then I'll say, well, what do you mean there is no hope? There is no hope? Well, if you're alive, that is your hope. That is your hope. You remember, people who are going through terrible, horrible things, people who are facing their mortality in a real sense, someone who is in hospice, they still have to embrace life. They're still alive. They have a different perspective. Life takes on a different meaning. And so I find that my weather conversation with the patients is so important to their overall prognosis. So not only that, I can't tell you how many times I've seen that positive perspective, when I would help someone change their mindset. Changing the mindset literally can affect the physical outcomes. It happens. It's real. It's real. The problem is that it's not very measurable. It's not very measurable. Health systems and insurance companies and doctors, they're starting to realize, and there have been studies done, they're starting to realize that there really is a connection between mindset and physical outcomes. Mindset and physical outcomes. So I'm not saying, send a psychologist into everyone. Well, really what Healthcare Raw is all about is that I'm a regular nurse. I'm a regular guy. Okay, I like to look at myself as a regular guy. Okay, I breathe, I eat, I think, right? I'm not like some kind of superhuman over here. And I meet with people, and so I try to say to myself, well, what can I do to make myself stand out so that I can help you get through this? In other words, if I go into your house as a nurse, or if I walk into your hospital room and I'm just like everyone else and I'm just going to clean your wounds and flush your IV, then why am I any different than a machine? This has to be deeper. It has to be deeper. Healthcare Raw is all about getting past all the fancy things and really embracing the fundamental purpose of healthcare. The fundamental purpose of what healthcare is all about. Healthcare is all about one person helping another. And I know healthcare's gotten nuts. You ask someone, well, what do you think about healthcare? Oh boy, what do you think about healthcare? You're going to start hearing about insurance, greedy health systems, all that stuff, right? All that stuff that we know. But I'm a trench soldier. I mean, I'm dealing with the real people on the ground. It's all about one person helping another. And so the vision of Healthcare Raw is a vision for the future of healthcare. It's a vision of we can train our nurses and healthcare professionals to have a greater perspective on what they do and why they're doing what they do. When you imagine you've got 1 million, let's say you've got a pool of 1 million nurses. That's a large number. Let's say you've got a pool of 10,000 nurses working in a health system, and someone comes in and shares these kinds of words with them and helps them look at really the greater picture of why they're doing what they're doing. This should be nothing new. This is actually something that you learn in the beginning of nursing school, right? It's really what it's all about, but then we get so technical and forget about all those other things. So just imagine if you've got 10,000 nurses and 500 of them change their practice because of this. I mean, imagine 500 nurses, they're seeing a bunch of people every day. That's hundreds of thousands of interactions, right? And then it becomes a chain. It becomes a movement. I really believe that this is what healthcare is looking for, because right now everything is just in this loop of craziness. And so that, my beautiful friends, is what I get from weather. You see, it's really easy to get caught up in all the craziness and the goings on in your day-to-day life, right? Even it's especially easy when you're suffering from illness to get so bogged down in the illness itself that you forget about the fact that you're still alive, right? So the whole idea is you got to rise above that. You got to rise above that. And that's what this is all about. Now, I will tell you that the weather people that I talk with, it's really weird. I'll tell you what, it's really weird when you've got a 50 or 60-year-old intelligent person who has who has literally stepped out of reality. Like the fact is, there's gonna be summer. It's gonna be a beautiful summer, and I tell them this. It's gonna be a beautiful summer, but you've completely lost track of reality. And we can't let that happen with healthcare. Have a wonderful, beautiful day. Visit our website, healthcareraw.com. Share this with your friends. If you know a nurse, share it with them. Tell them to listen. Say, hey man, this is awesome. This is a great message. We're going to change healthcare. We're going to get this done. Have a beautiful day.